This seems to be like one of my favourite places to make videos these days. It's in my van, due to the nature of the fact that a lot of places I used to make videos at when I was travelling in my van, travelling around the country, and also in Auckland City itself, it just seems like there's a lot. The weather seems to be so inclement that I can't make videos outside a lot of the time, due to the nature of the conditions that I find myself in when I'm looking to make a video. So here I am in my van again making a video, and I'm gonna go back to the machinations, what's happening in regards to what's going on in the world. Keep above my head on this. What's happening in the world, in the cosmos, in the solar system, and how that relates to what's going on right now. And once again, come back to the actual nature of the fact that, in my perception, people are really, not everyone's tuning into this, what's going on, and not really. And the necessity, I think, as well, to look at the work of Bibhu Dev Misra. Come back to that book, Yuga Shift, and read it. Pick it up, buy a copy on Amazon, go to Bibhu Dev Misra's website, and buy a copy, because what's happening in real time in 2025, this is the end of August 2025, what's happening in real time is happening right now. And he wrote about this in the book, Yuga Shift. And it's like, basically, it's a play-by-play. And even though what we're seeing in regards to the electrification and the electromagnetic spectrum of the cosmos and of our solar system, how electrified the solar system has become since March, since the equinox in March 2025, how electrified, how much electromagnetic energy the sun is putting out, how much the earth is being loaded with this energy, electromagnetic, electrical plasma waves coming from the sun, how much the output of this in the solar maximum cycle 2025, how much this energy is loading up into the earth, and how people like Stefan Burns is probably one of the only people that I know of on YouTube or of anywhere I've ever seen in the world right now that's actually talking about the nature of what's going on here with the sun solar maximum, the cycle of the sun, solar maximum 2025, this cycle, and how much energy the sun is emitting, and how the earth is being loaded up with this energy, as are all the other planets in the solar system being loaded up with this energy as well from the sun. And how this comet, this interstellar object, is called 3I Atlas, as it comes into the solar system, you know, the whole RV Loeb, it's an extraterrestrial AI spaceship, is bullshit. It's nonsense. But for me, it's nonsense. It's just nonsense, absolute nonsense. But it remains to be seen, you know, it remains to be seen. And people are jumping on board with this and making it quite apparent that it's an extraterrestrial AI or a spacecraft coming towards the Earth, and it'll be here in November. I don't buy into any of that bullshit at all. I think it's all just absolute rubbish and fear, and, you know, it's total rubbish. To me, it's an interstellar object that may have been in our solar system before, and it's coming here for a purpose. And Stefan Burns is sort of the same in some ways. Well, that interstellar object, like a Muamua, has come into our solar system with a purpose to activate, due to the nature of where it's come from, and we don't quite understand. I think it's from the Oort cloud. No one's really sure, or someone's probably really sure and knows where it's coming from, but not telling us where it's coming from. But the speculation is it's from the Oort cloud, or further out into interstellar space, and it's coming into our solar system. And as it comes into the solar system, you can see the fluctuations. And Stefan Burns does, once again, Stefan Burns' YouTube channel does a really good job of showing this information, the fluctuations of the electromagnetic energy of the sun and the plasma waves of the sun coming out of the sun when this object gets closer and closer towards it. It's like the two objects, as you say, the sun, which is also a conscious living entity, because everything's conscious, and this conscious entity, which we've given the label, the title, the appellation, 3I Atlas, for whatever goddamn reason, I've got no idea. But this object, this interstellar object, and the sun are talking to each other, as two living beings would, right? But I look at this in a bigger picture, broad spectrum picture, due to the nature of the work I've researched with Bibhu Dev Misra, what he wrote about in the Yuga Shift, and the Vedic sciences, right? The Vedic sciences, the oral Vedic sciences. We're talking like, we're talking the last golden age. Okay, the ascending golden age, descending golden age. So we're talking like 14, 16,000 years ago. Ascending golden age into the descending golden age. What we're talking about here in regards to the work he's done and the research he's done, and also the information he's presented. Keep bumping my head on this thing. The research he's presented in that book, Yuga Shift, makes it quite clear that the comets that came in, because the Vedic astrologers who were alive during the descending golden age, which was the end of Atlantis, who were alive, who saw the number of comets come in during the Younger Dryas period, during the end of the descending golden age, into what was known then as cataclysmos by the Greeks, the deluge. The Vedic astrologers who saw these comets that came in, and every comet had a particular attribute to it in regards to what it brought to the civilization that was, I guess, well, the people that were still around after the Younger Dryas event, after the end of Atlantis, but also the historical context of these comets as they came into our solar system, near the Earth, near the planets within our solar system. These Vedic astrologers made it quite clear and wrote about, and through orally passed down information about these comets, and eventually it was written down. Probably 7,000 years later, it was written down. And Bibhu Dev Misra does a really amazing job of detailing what each comet was, the name of the comet, and what the comet brought to the Earth at the time it arrived here. Or it brushed by, they got very close, what each comet looked like, because these Vedic astrologers saw these comets and saw the attributes of what happened when these comets approached the Earth. And that could be through the nature of how these comets were emitting electromagnetic energy, electrical energy, the Earth's own shifts and phases geophysically, the Earth's tectonic plate movements, whether the Earth was in a shrinking phase or an expanding phase. Of course, at the end of the descending golden age, the Earth would have began to shrink. To me, in my perception, is the nature of that. When the consciousness expands, the Earth expands and begins to get bigger and bigger, and it expands in size. That might sound ridiculous, but if you look at what's going on in the Pacific Plate, the Ring of Fire, and once again back to Stefan Burns' work, the Earth is literally, it seems to be, due to the nature of this, the movement in the Pacific Plate, and it's expanding. It seems to be expanding. Did I just see a rat? Crazy. Anyway, so expanding due to the nature of consciousness, due to the nature of where we're moving towards in regards to consciousness, towards through ekpyrosis, towards the Dwapara cycle, the ascending Dwapara cycle, the Bronze Age, ascending towards the Dwapara cycle, ascending Dwapara cycle, ascending Tretya, the Silver Age, ascending Satya, Golden Age. So as you move towards this energy, and the energy begins to shift and change and move in that direction towards the Dwapara cycle through ekpyrosis, the transformation through fire, what we are seeing is that the sun in the solar maximum cycle and these interstellar objects coming towards the inner solar system, you're seeing this back and forth from the sun and this interstellar object as they're talking to each other, so to speak. And with Stefan Burns on this one, there's a communication happening. It's on a level that we can't even comprehend with our five senses or our intellect. We have to look at it in a very different aspect, on a frequency band range, because it's a frequency. These two conscious beings are talking to one another. And what are they talking about? In my perception, they're talking about expansion. They're talking about the nature of the cycle, about the machinations of how this cycle needs to happen in regards to ekpyrosis, how we are going through this transformation and what that means. So the sun is going to this enormous phase of energetic output, loading the earth up with all this energy, which means that more volcanic activity, more tectonic activity. If you look at the amount of earthquakes we've had since the March equinox this year, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of these earthquakes are happening, and they're between 6.5 to 7.5. They're quite big earthquakes. They're happening in areas where there's no population at all, people, which is very interesting. It's almost like the consciousness of the earth has decided to allow this energy to be bombarded into it. But its expansion, its movements, its understanding of what needs to happen. It's almost like in some way it's allowing the energy to be released in areas, and it's happening anyway. It is not some way, it is happening. Released in areas where there's been large earthquakes where no one lives. Like there was a 7.5 or 7.4 in the Drake Passage between Antarctica and South America not long ago, only a few days ago. And there's been earthquakes all around the Pacific Ring of Fire. It's just going off. There's earthquakes at least 2 or 3 a week. Between 6.5 to 7 every week. There's about 3 or 4 of them happening every week. But they're happening in areas where there's no population of people, no large populations of people. There have been some that have been close to the land masses, like what's now called Irian Jaya, West Papua. There's a big earthquake off the coast there that caused some damage to property in that part of the world, but thankfully no injuries. No one died. But the Earth is loading up with all this energy, and as this interstellar object gets closer and closer towards the sun, we are literally going to be in a situation where we don't know what's happening in regards to what will potentially happen moving forward. But if you look at the Vedic sciences and look at the work of Bibhu Dev Misra and read his book, you will see that he makes it quite clear in the historical sense what happened at the descending golden age and cataclysmos during that time, at 1200-year time in cataclysmos, before we got to, which is we call now the Younger Dryas in regards to our geological time frame, but the Greeks called it cataclysmos, the great deluge. What happened in that time frame, and the amount of comets that came into our solar system and into our inner solar system, and how they affected our planet at that time, and how they affected changes on our planet, how they affected the changes, some beneficial, some not so beneficial. Of course, the Younger Dryas impact is a classic example. If that really happened, of course, there's some speculation around that too. If that really happened, if parts of a comet broke off, smashed into the Cordilleran and the Laurentian ice sheets and caused a massive deluge, which ended up taking out the wall, which was where this shallow inland sea is now, which is now the Gulf of Mexico, where that took the wall out and they went round and took out Atlantis, Poseidia, absolutely annihilated Poseidia. And my remembrance of that experience of Atlantis, yes, it did. There was a huge wave that came down through what's now the Gulf of Mexico, pushed out and destroyed the mountain range that went between Cuba and the Yucatan, smashed it out, destroyed Poseidia, basically just completely destroyed it, washed all the debris of the mountain range between Cuba and the Yucatan all the way down to Venezuela, through the strata which you can see in Google Maps as it tears down towards Venezuela, what's now called the Caribbean. Or if you follow the work of Dark Journalist, it's called the Hot Zone. Daniel Linst on YouTube. So, to me, that is part and parcel of the historical context. It's dismissed because it changes the narrative. It changes the narrative of control. If people knew that the force that came into being that controls this simulation, which is basically an overlay it's an overlay that was only allowed to come in due to the nature of the fact that we began to descend out of the golden age, and the energy was there for this interdimensional AI force which moves through, in my perception. I've written about this in my books, in Entwined and United, this interdimensional AI that came in and actually possesses the bodies through nanotech in the past of humans and non-human beings that control the simulation technologically at the end of Atlantis, who came through that time, were able to come through because the energy allowed them to come through as we descended towards the Kali Yuga cycle, allow that energy to come through and possess and come into this simulation that they created at the end the descending end of the younger of Atlantis, and as we entered into the Younger Dryas, the energy was there for these beings to come in and create the simulation, which we exist in today, which they decode, as David Icke would say. But as we begin to enter into ekpyrosis, that simulation, that hack, will lose its power. And the ability to actually maintain itself is falling apart, is beginning to defrag and fall apart. And that's why I did a video a long time ago about the nature of the powers that be, this non-human interdimensional force that moves through various bodies and humanoid forms, but a lot of them non-human forms, is looking to build a technological Kali Yuga. To build a technological Kali Yuga, to remain in power and to have an overlay within the hack that will allow them to maintain their level of control over all of existence within the simulation. And for me, the nature of 3i Atlas coming into the solar system, the inner solar system, and the sun and this object talking to each other, it's like, I think, and my feeling is, this is what happens at the end of this cycle. And this is not new. There's nothing new under the sun, as the biblical texts say. There's nothing new under the sun. This happens at the end of every ascending, or at the beginning of every ekpyrosis. These comets, interstellar objects, come into our inner solar system and begin to activate the sun. The codes come out of the sun that allow the simulation to break down. But these beings, the powers that be, are looking to create an overlay through the technological Kali Yuga, for all of the technological matrix that we are having, through the use of the AI, as above so below, bringing it into our reality, putting injectables into people's bodies, putting tech into people's bodies through sprays, aerosol spraying, geoengineering, through injections, through food, looking to put this tech into people's bodies so that they can have a communication, change the DNA of people, changing the DNA of men and women in a way that allows them for that energy, for that frequency to be decoded by the body. And then by that process of decoding from the body to the tech, the speaking to each other through this overlay, keep the people in this technological Kali Yuga. But as this 3i Atlas object moves towards our sun and the codes get released, it's inevitable at some point. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen today or tomorrow. It's inevitable at some point. The codes that will upload, that the people will upload, and I think a lot of people have taken in these medical procedures, if they don't resonate with the new energy, they don't resonate with the new codes, they can't download the new codes, they won't make it through to the next level of I wouldn't say the game, but the next level of the cycle. They won't make it through ekpyrosis the next 10 to 14, 15 years, because they're not resonating on the same energy. If you don't resonate on the same frequency band, when the frequency band begins to shift and change and turn, and you can't take in the codings, and you can't take the codings in and then actually allow them to assimilate with your own frequency, with your own energetic matrix, within your own ability to perceive and decode the information that's coming in through your DNA as the antennae for this interaction between you and the sun, as you move into this process of ekpyrosis the next 14, 15 years, as Bibhu Dev Misra says. If you can't decode that energy, if you don't have the ability to actually tune into that energy and actually become more aligned with it, I don't think you're going to make it. I'm not saying that because I'm being cruel or horrible. It's just the nature of how it's always been. I think for me, in my perception, it's always been this way, that at some point, if you don't align to the frequencies of the changing energies, you're not going to survive, so to speak. But you're not going to be dead, because there's no death. But your illusory physical body will no longer be able to harbor the energy of your spirit, because you're not aligned. So therefore, if you're not aligned with the energy coming in, how could you ever function in a frequency band that you can't? Because you can't align with the frequency as it changes and shifts and becomes more faster, and you can't align with that. And if you're in the technological matrix where you're DNA is talking to a technology, e.g. the technological Kali Yuga, through the use of all the tech we have today, AI, 5G towers, cell communications, pulsed energy waves, the whole electromagnetic spectrum and the whole electromagnetic energy created by all the technology brought into the world in 2020 during the lockdowns, put you in prison while we install all the technology around you, so that when we put these implantable nanotech into your body, which changes your DNA, which allows the energy, which allows the frequency pulses from this technology, this technological Kali Yuga, to speak to your DNA as an antennae and lock you into a frequency band as the other frequency band comes in. For people who haven't got this technology in their body, who have done their best to actually done their best to detox their bodies, to allow their bodies to attune to that energy, to those codings coming in from the sun, because the sun is actually is in my perception, the sun is the key to the frequency bands coming in. And the second sun is, as Sri Yukteswar talked about in the Holy Science, the binary star, as it gets closer to the main star, what we have, it comes in behind perhaps, and becomes closer to that, and closer to that star. As it gets closer towards that star, of course, we head into a more expanded sense of consciousness, and our bodies become lighter because of the nature of the light that comes from those two binary star system. The binary star system changes our frequency to a point where we become less and less dense due to the nature of consciousness and the nature of the connection we have with consciousness. But we're heading towards that very slowly, but it feels sometimes like it's very quick, happening very fast. And I'm seeing around me people that are really deeply in the matrix, really deeply rooted into this frequency band. And the more I move out of it myself in regards to how I experience my reality, how I perceive reality, how I decode reality within the simulation and outside the simulation, by reaching out from my heart vortex to connect to this energy coming in, these codes coming in, the more I get to this place of feeling, connecting, the more I have experiences where NPCs, as David Icke says, and other codings within the system who see me breaking free of it, like I'm not a ghost in the machine. I become almost like a rogue program within the machine. The machine, as in the movies The Matrix, will send out agents like Agent Smith to try and bring me back into align with the frequency, but I'm moving out of it. I'm moving away from it and further away from that energy by being more in my heart vortex, by understanding the nature of these energies coming in, thanks to the work of Stefan Burns, Bibhu Dev Misra, understanding what's happening and looking to be more virtuous, more honorable in my frequency and the way I conduct myself, and attuning to that energy as it comes in. The more I feel as though I'm being bombarded with energies that are looking to bring me back into a place of coherence with the simulation. I'm not decoding that, but I have to often experience situations where I have to decode an experience that brings me back into that heaviness and density, where I'm looking to break free of it and be in a more attuned to the levels of existence that are coming in now through these light codes from the sun. And it's a very interesting experience to be in a situation where, even though you are co-creating with this energy, you have another energy over here looking to drag you back down by firing out these agents at you, Agent Smith, so to speak. And a lot of them are agents within the public system, the public legal system, right? The public commerce contract system, looking to bring you back into the density through fear, through guilt, through shame, and through contract, and looking for your consent to actually be able to act in a way that brings you back into that game, where if you understand who you really are and what you really are, and you are more in the private, and you're more connected to God and to the Creator, this energy over here has no power over you at all. And you're moving that way there. But this energy here wants to grab you and pull you back here, because if you're getting out as a rogue program within the simulation, they can see it. They will send their agents, and it's been my experience, they will send their agents out to grab you and pull you back into the density. And the best way to possibly, in my experience, to get free of that is to study and understand and know who you are and act with honor and virtue and move in that direction, even when you're pulled into a place or being pulled back by this force that wants to control you and bring you back into the simulation and wants to basically take you, and in my perception, take consciousness in this technological Kali Yuga cycle, take the consciousness. If there is a moment moving forward or moments moving forward within this breakdown of the simulation, because at some point it's all going to come crashing down. The simulation, this hack that we are in right now, in my perception, this frequency band is going to come crashing down because it has to, due to the nature of the power of the codes coming in from the sun and the more comets that come into our inner solar system. And I'm not saying interstellar, I'm saying comets that will be awoken in the next 15 years. If Bibhu Dev Misra's work is correct, I do believe it is correct. In the next 15 years, we'll start to see these comets and larger objects, bolides and asteroids, coming into our solar system, coming closer to the Earth. When we have these experiences coming closer to the sun and waking the sun up, and when these experiences happen, we have a trigger. It's like a trigger that the two beings, the two consciousnesses, talk to each other about the nature of what needs to happen in regards to the machinations around tuning the dial to the frequency which breaks the simulation down. When that eventually happens, when the simulation is completely broken down and we get to see the world reality as it really is, as we move out of the ekpyrosis, 1200 years, remember, of ekpyrosis. So I think what Bibhu Dev Misra says is the first 15 years of this experience after the end of the ascending Kali Yuga cycle is the most intense, because what happens is that the foundation of the entire simulation, so to speak, of the civilization of control and all of those densities within the Kali Yuga cycle have to be transmuted, have to be completely destroyed. This civilization, everything that comes with it, everything about control, all about everything we have erected around this global civilization has to come to an end if it's about control, if it doesn't align with the energies coming in about virtue and honor and authenticity. If those if all the energies we have in our civilization don't align with those energies coming in from this shift within the cycles of the Yuga cycles, then all this has to end, and it will end at some point. And that, for me, in my perception, I said this years ago when I wrote a blog about this, is that the harvest of consciousness in the technological Kali Yuga will take consciousness into the 8th sphere, which is the mystery school work about this technological, almost an astral world, where consciousness can be harvested and kept like in a container, a storage unit, where people can incarnate within that sphere until the descending golden age comes around again, 12, 14,000, 16,000 years from now. And then that consciousness can be recycled back into the descending golden age, the descending silver age, the descending bronze age, and that consciousness can be therefore taken back into a place where this simulation can be recreated and the consciousness can reincarnate into bodies, so to speak, where we begin that process of descending back into the Kali Yuga. And that this simulation that's existed, probably in my perception, before and many Yuga cycles, can have its time again. You know, it's like a game of yin and yang, the light and dark. They both need each other to exist, because God ultimately wants to experience everything. Everything. And that's the nature of the existence we find ourselves in today. Whew. Crazy. That's a big video to watch. Half an hour long almost. Or half an hour by the time I finish this video. Thanks for watching. That's quite a download. Go well, and remember, Stefan Burns on YouTube, follow him, and please, 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 if you listen to anything I say, read Yuga Shift, Bibhu Dev Misra, Bibhu Dev Misra, Yuga Shift. Buy the book, read it, listen to him talk, look at his research, and see what's happening right now in 2025 Everything he said in that book, what was going to happen due to ekpyrosis, is happening in real time. And this is it. If you're in the live stream, you'll see it all happening right in front of you. And then you can make decisions and choices around that. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mā te ua. I'll see you again soon.